And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and this is 10 cards that I think desperately need a reprint. I don't normally do this on my channel typically, but I've been coming across a lot of cards recently that are sort of Commander staples that have never been reprinted, which I find just shocking. I came across a few of them, in fact, when I was doing my last Underwhelming Commanders video with Keiho Minamo Historian, which is what eventually prompted me to do this video. There's 3 cards on this list that I did in that deck tech. So this isn't just necessarily about price. Like a lot of people will say, hey, just keep reprinting these staples over and over again because it'll bring the price down. These are cards that have never been reprinted, and I find that shocking because a lot of them are Commander staples. So starting out with Fate Stitcher. 3 and a blue zombie wizard, 1/2. Tap, you may tap or untap another target permanent. It has unearth 1 blue. So this is one of the cards that I mentioned in that video. This is a card that I've mentioned on a couple of my deck techs because it is very unique in what it's doing. Believe it or not, this is the only card that taps or untaps a permanent without paying any mana. Repeatable anyway. Having that tap ability to tap or untap something is very unique here, and this card has never been reprinted. It is only like a $3 card. Still though, this is a card that can go in so many decks, and I just don't know why they don't reprint cards like this. Coming in at number 9, Blood Chief Ascension. 1 black mana enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if an opponent lost 2 or more life this turn, you may put a quest counter on Blood Chief Ascension. Whenever a card is put in an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, if Blood Chief Ascension has 3 or more quest counters on it, you may have that player lose 2 life. If you do, you gain 2 life. Just a really fantastic effect in a Commander game. Just used to be an incredible menace back in the day when I first started playing. You don't see it much anymore. Maybe because it's never been reprinted. This card has never been reprinted. It was only printed in Zendikar. It's like a $25 card right now. And again, for me, it's not just about the let's reprint this to make it less expensive. I just can't believe this has never been reprinted. The fact that it's been a Commander staple for as long as I can remember, to me, I'm just wondering why they have not printed this in a Commander set. It just seems like an obvious include. But there's also cards on this list that are from Commander sets. Comeuppance, 3 and a white instant. Personal favorite of mine, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and planeswalkers you control this turn by sources you don't control. If damage from a creature source is prevented this way, Comeuppance deals that much damage to that creature. If damage from a non-creature source is prevented this way, Comeuppance deals that much damage to that source's controller. A very unique card. There's no other card that does exactly what this does. It's fantastic in a Commander game. I love it for stuff like Aetherflux Reservoir, it works great against. Craterhoof Behemoth, it works great against. Typical win cons in the format, it's fantastic against. That's why I started putting it in all my decks. It was printed originally in Commander 2014 and has never been reprinted. Why not reprint this in a more recent Commander set? I mean, that was 7 years ago. It's a $10 card right now. That's not terrible, but this is a card that I think could go on a lot more decks and probably would if they reprinted it. Another card that's been played in Commander since forever, Praters Grasp. 1 black sorcery. Search target opponent's library for a card and exile it face down, then that player shuffles. You may look at that card and play it for as long as it remains exiled. I'm sure everyone is familiar with this card. Everyone's probably familiar with all the cards on this list. They are all Commander staples for the most part. Again, this card has never been reprinted. Like, why haven't they reprinted this card in the Commander set at some point? I'm not sure. It's a $15 card right now, only printed in New Phyrexia, that's it, never been printed anywhere else. And it's a card that will be continued to play in Commander probably forever, because there really isn't any other cards that do exactly what this is doing. Coming in at number 6, Steely Resolve. This is less of a Commander staple and more of a card that I just think is fantastic in Commander. I've mentioned it on this channel a few times. 1 and a green enchantment. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type have Shroud. So as I've said many times before, great in a tribal deck where you want to protect your particular tribe, but also great if I just want people to keep their hands off my commander, so I name whatever my commander's creature type is so no one can touch it. Only was printed in Onslaught, has never been reprinted. It's currently about $22. This card, just like a lot of cards on this list, just seem like fantastic reprints for Commander sets, I think. Coming in at number 5, and this is a newer card, but still desperately needs a reprint, Pitiless Plunderer, 3 and a black human pirate, 1/4. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token, which obviously sacrifices to add a mana of any color. This card is in so many decks. This is probably in the most amount of decks out of all the cards on this list. It's a $13 uncommon. This is just an uncommon and it's $13. That's bananas. And it's because it goes in so many decks. It's a fantastic card in any Aristocrats theme. It gives you the treasure tokens, whether those creatures you sacrifice are tokens or not, which is extra good. It's just an auto include in so many decks. It has never been reprinted. We need this card to be reprinted. Another card that I find shocking has never been reprinted is Parallel Lives, coming in at number 4. 3 and a green enchantment. If an effect would create one or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead. This is even more the case now, especially in this last year. I had mentioned this, I think in C21 when I did my review of that set, how this would be a great opportunity to reprint this card in that set because there was a heavy token theme there. We're seeing a lot more treasure tokens, a lot more clue tokens coming out with commanders now. These cards are just getting more and more expensive. And of course, we can also throw Anointed Procession in here as well. Another card that has never been reprinted. Got a couple of printings in Amonkhet, which helped a little bit, but ultimately still a $30 card. Parallel Lives is a $40 card. These cards are just so necessary in the format for so many different strategies and really need to be reprinted, I think. Coming in at number 3, Training Grounds, and I think everyone's going to agree on this one. 1 blue mana enchantment. Activated ability of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana to less than 1 mana. So this card just goes in so many decks. If you have a commander with an activated ability, and there's a bunch, obviously in blue, this is just an auto include. This is another one of the cards that I talked about when I was talking about Keho Manamo Historian, right? There's a very underwhelming commander where this card is so important in that deck because it's helping what you're doing so much. It's currently a $30 card. This has been sort of reprinted in the list. I don't know if that's necessarily a reprint or not. Like, what are the chances that you actually crack this open in a pack from the list? I don't know. It's got to be astronomically small. I don't know how much that's actually helping the case here. Just reprint this card in a commander set. I think these are all great options for reprinting in commander sets. Like our number 2, Greater Oromancy. 1 and a white enchantment. Other enchantments you control have Shroud. Enchanted creatures you control have Shroud. This card has never been reprinted. Why? This card is currently $74. Because it goes in so many, obviously in enchantment themed decks, right? Also in any deck where maybe you want to do an aura theme because it gives your enchanted creature Shroud as well. Probably an auto include in a Zur the Enchanter deck. Auto include in a lot of decks, really. Why are they not reprinting this card? I don't know. I mean, there's lots of little nuances here that I really don't involve myself with. I'm a deck builder. That's sort of my thing. I don't really delve into the reasons why they reprint or don't reprint cards. This one's baffling to me. I mean, it's from Shadowmoor. Why not reprint this card? You know people in Commander are playing it like crazy. The price keeps getting higher and higher and higher. It's never been reprinted. I mean, this card absolutely needs a reprint in a newer set. And coming in at number 1 is Illusionist Bracers. 2 mana artifact equipment, has equip 3, and whenever an ability of an equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. I mean, really any of the top like 3 or 4 on this list could have been number 1. I put this one at number 1 just because, again, it's doing a very unique thing, and because of that, it goes in so many decks. Also a colorless card, so it can go in any deck, and for that reason, it gets used a lot. That's sort of the cards that I was targeting for this list. I wasn't just targeting cards that were really expensive and we need a reprint to make them cheaper. I was targeting cards that A, have never been reprinted, and this card has never been reprinted, and cards that you see in Commander all the time because they have very unique abilities that work really well with certain commanders. So again, if I'm making that Keho deck, this is a great fit there. There's a whole lot of commanders that have activated abilities where this card is an auto include. This card is an auto include in so many decks, and it just would be so easy, I think, for Wizards of the Coast to reprint this in a commander set or maybe even in a core set. I'm not sure why they don't. I don't know why they don't reprint a lot of the cards on this list. You see some cards that just get reprinted like every year, sometimes 2 or 3 times a year. To be quite honest, I know everyone wants to throw an Arcane Signet or a Soul Ring in their deck, but come on, enough with the reprints of those cards. How about some reprints of these more interesting cards? Rather than reprinting Arcane Signet in the next commander set, how about we reprint Illusionist Bracers? I would much rather prefer that. Yes, Arcane Signet is a good card that you probably want to put in your deck, but it's easily replaceable with another mana rock. Maybe not a mana rock that is quite as good, but it's not a card that's going to be necessary for your commander to work. Illusionist Bracers, Training Grounds, Parallel Lives, these are all cards that are going to make a commander, especially an underwhelming commander, a lot better and there isn't really any other options for you, or very few at least. That's why I want the cards on this particular list to be reprinted. But that is 10 cards that I think desperately need a reprint, either in a commander set or a core set, or really I don't care where they're reprinted. Just need a reprint, not just for the price, but also for the availability. So they're more available, especially to newer players, right? Because some of these cards are a little older. Maybe there's players that don't know they exist. If they got a reprint, it would make newer players more aware of them. So there's also that as well. But that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.